trustees. I want to welcome everybody who's joined us here in the ESC, as well as everybody who is watching via our video live stream. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's exactly 7 p.m. First thing that we need to do, because we have some board members who are participating via our live stream, is to take a roll call. So board members, when I call your name, please respond by saying present. Mr. Beeler.
Present.
Mr. Garrett.
Present.
Mrs. Gates.
Present.
Ms. Roach.
Present.
Mr. Woods.
Present.
I'm Mr. Riley. I too am present. The first item on our agenda tonight is the adoption of the agenda. Board members, do you have any additions or changes to the proposed agenda for tonight's meeting? Hearing none, does the administration?
The administration has no changes.
So do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the Monday, March 22nd, 2021 regular board meeting as presented?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Motion is carried by a vote of 6-0. Next up is the approval of the minutes from our February the 22nd, 2001 executive session and regular board meeting. Board members, do you have any changes to those minutes? Hearing none, does the administration?
The administration has no changes.
Then do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 22nd, 2021 executive session and regular board meeting as presented?
So moved. I so moved. Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Next up is the superintendent's recognitions and announcements. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley. Board of Trustees, welcome everyone. It's great to see you. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome outstanding Student Board Ambassador, Manal Bush.
I don't see that Manal has joined us yet, Dr. Thacker. Oh, there we go.
Right on.
She might not realize that you've introduced her.
Manal, if you can hear me, you're
Yep.
up.
Sorry, thank you. I don't know, I'm having a little bit of a camera issue, so I'm gonna have to be a black screen today. I'm so sorry about that. Good evening, everybody, President Riley, members of the board, and Dr. Thacker. I'm going to be sharing some athletic, academic, and fine arts highlights and some news on Kingsman Court. So in impressive athletic news, Penn girls basketball players Caitlin Costner and Trinity Clinton were selected to the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association's senior all-state team, and 4 Lady Kingsmen were named to the honorable mention academic all-state team. In exciting academic news, the National Center for Women and Information Technology recently announced that Penn senior Sydney Domal is receiving its Aspirations in Computing Award, so that's very exciting. In fine arts news, Penn High School Theater Department, they recently had their Theory of Relativity, showing virtually and with limited in-person seating. And looking to the future, Penn's Evening of Jazz is set for the evening of May 13th in Mishawaka's Central Park. So I encourage everybody to go. On to Kingsman Court news. We've recently been working on a Safe School Helpline informational video with a few other members of the student body and Mr. Rollo. And we're hoping to spread awareness about the helpline, especially during a time when not all students are in school. So counselors and other help has been a little bit hard to grasp for some students. Kingsman Court is also providing volunteers for tonight and tomorrow night's PHM Phonathon, which will support innovative classroom grants. And just a side note, a big thank you to Dr. and Mrs. Thacker for matching donations up to $10,000. I'm sure that's going to be a huge help for the fundraiser. Finally, I know I've been talking incessantly about our fundraiser the past couple months, but the week has finally arrived. Our Kingsman Court and Muslim Student Association fundraiser for United Way's COVID Relief Fund is this Saturday, the 27th. I shared all the details and flyers with Ms. Bradbury a little while ago, but some reminder details just for everybody listening and everybody, I guess, on the live stream as well. The fundraiser is from 4 to 8 p.m. this Saturday on the 27th at the Chipotle on Main Street. 33% of all sales that evening will be going directly to the families in this community who have been struggling recently with job loss, increased need for childcare, illness, inability to pay for rent, food, or utility bills, etc., due to the pandemic. It's a cause that I personally, and I'm sure all of you, care very deeply about. And I am hoping to blow our $350 goal out of the water. This fundraiser is not exclusively for Penn students and staff, so please make sure to tell all of your family, friends, and coworkers about it. I know there are teachers listening. I'm not talking directly at you, but if you're free from 4 to 8 p.m., that's something you might want to check out this Saturday. And we'd really like to maximize our proceeds. It's a very good cause, and we've been working up to it for quite a bit of time. That's all for me tonight. I just wanted to thank again Dr. Thacker for the matching up to $10,000. That's very kind of you. And I hope to see all of you guys this Saturday at Chipotle.
No, we've been looking forward to it. Believe me, we got this. We got this. Thanks once again for an outstanding presentation. I would say it's great to see you, but this time it's great to hear you at least. And we'll see you Saturday.
Thank you.
Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are major focuses this year of both Superintendent's Advisory Council and our weekly secondary social emotional learning curriculum. Many Black History Month diversity activities took place in classrooms across the district in February. PHM multimedia producer Joe Fratina shows us how Grissom Middle School student teacher Zoe Morgan developed and engaged her students. Let's take a look.
I was an actor that portrayed the first Black mainstream comic book hero on screen. I attended Howard University, a historical Black college, for theater. I was also known for playing Jackie Robinson, James Brown in Get On Up, and Thurgood Marshall, the first Black Supreme Court Justice in Marshall. Who am I?
Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah. Today we're talking about Chadwick Boseman. So he portrayed all of those really important men in history and film. But we're going to talk a little bit about representation. He's the first Black comic book hero portrayed on film. I want you all to see why it matters so much, why representation is important. So I have a video that I'm going to show you.
I just wanted to thank you for making Black Panther. Representation is very important.
I can't express how much it means to me and the community and my family. Thank you from the very bottom of my heart.
Darren, I think there's something wrong with your microphone. My king. Oh, my God. You should work in show business. That was.
Now what am I supposed to do?
Now you're beloved.
So that is why representation is important. They were very proud to see someone that looked like them as this superhero, this really big character. It's a way to help you be yourself because you see someone that looks like you being themselves on screen.
That was terrific. I'm so proud of our teachers and our students and our community for working so hard to celebrate Black History Month. And of course, we know that the best kind of celebration is all year long, and then with a special celebration when it's that peak period. But recognizing the differences all the time and celebrating and valuing. You know, and as we go back in time and we think of last summer, on July 1st, the Board of School Trustees passed a resolution to work to bring about systematic and structural change to ensure diversity, inclusion, and equality in PHM schools. We're not only committed to promoting diversity and inclusivity, but the district would also strive to not just be against racism, but would become anti-racist. In part, the resolution read that we, quote, will fulfill our duty to foster a safe, healthy, and inclusive learning environment. That means we will not only work to educate students and staff on the harmful effects of microaggressions and implicit bias, we will also openly condemn any and all forms of hate and violence against all races and cultures. Tonight, we want to state publicly that we stand with and support our Asian American students, staff, and families. In recent weeks, the number of abhorrent, violent attacks against Asian American communities has grown, including the shootings in Atlanta last Tuesday. Through PHM's implementation of social emotional initiatives, we know that an understanding of one another and appreciation of our differences makes us all stronger together. If any student, teacher, staff member, or parent is aware of any unhealthy behavior of students, please contact us through the Safe School Helpline so we can provide the help they need. You can use the app, text, or call us, or go online to email us. The service is available 24 hours a day. The contact information is on the homepage of the PHM and all school websites. We know that it's important to value and celebrate diversity. I'm going to move now to another topic which for a year we've been dealing with, a pandemic. You know, COVID-19 health, safety, and bringing all of our students back into school for the best learning environments is also a major priority for me, the school board, and our PHM Teachers Association. A year ago, last March, COVID-19 forced the shutdown of schools from across Indiana and the country. And now a year later, we have vaccines. So we're pleased to partner with Meyer to offer a vaccination clinic on March 8th at Penn for any and all PHM teachers and employees who wanted one. We even offered them to neighboring school districts and the private schools located within our school district. PHM multimedia producer Joe Fertina shows us the teamwork it took to set up the clinic on short notice.
You know, today we're extremely excited to provide an opportunity for our staff members to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
So not only do we have over 700 of our employees participating, but we have employees from area school districts such as Mishawaka, New Prairie, John Glenn, and South Bend.
Meyer sent out notification to their pharmacies indicating they could hold clinics at schools and partner with school corporations.
Meyer has had a whole team formed just for COVID. We were working on it this summer into fall. What's this going to look like when we do finally get vaccine? So it does take a little bit more planning. That's one thing I can proudly say at Meyer, we do not waste any doses. I just appreciate Penn has been great to work with.
In Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation, we have a vision of excellence and we have a number of major goals, but the highest priority we have is safety. I am absolutely delighted that we have this opportunity that we're going to be able to take care of the health of so many of our employees. So I'm thrilled with this opportunity. I'm thrilled that we're going to be able to have more kids involved in school. I'm thrilled that we're going to have this wonderful positive climate that we've enjoyed for decades in Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation.
I honestly have to say that it was fantastic when I found out that we were able to get them right here at school and I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to sign up on a list. I didn't have to do any of that. It just shows that Penn-Harris-Madison is a great place to work because they always think of their employees first and are trying to make sure that we are safe to be back in the classroom.
And this just has a tremendous positive impact on the feeling that the teachers have, all school employees, and the students with regard to receiving a vaccine. They know they're going to be safer, so this is the first step in that. It also gives us a barometer of what we need to be doing in the future with regard to reaching out and making sure we get our students back.
I'd like to personally thank all of the individuals at Meyer. I'd like to thank our HR department who was instrumental in coordinating this event. I'd like to thank Dr. Thacker. I'd like to thank our school board for their fortitude in the decisions that we've had to make and continue to make and their support. And I'd just like to thank our teachers and our staff members for volunteering to come in today and get the shot to not only protect themselves, but protect the community.
1,170 members of our educational community received the first dose of Pfizer vaccine on that very day. So they're going to be back. Pfizer Meyer will be back next Monday, March 29th, to give everyone their second shot.
Dr. Thacker, thank you very much. Those are two excellent spotlights. We appreciate very much the administration's commitment to carrying out the policy that the board adopted last year regarding racial inclusion. And I think that what the administration did in terms of distributing the vaccinations a couple of weeks ago was nothing short of absolutely outstanding work in a very brief period of time. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Thank you, Mr. Linsky, and thank you to all the members of the administration who made that happen. We'll move on now to our consent agenda items. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you. We're very excited to have conducted that clinic, and so we're really proud of all the effort. Okay, tonight the administration recommends approval of the 16 items appearing on the consent agenda. Appearing on the personnel report under administrative staff's retirement of assignment are two retirements. Mike Lerman, Director of Human Resources, has announced his retirement for July 21st, for July this year, after 18 years of dedicated leadership, counsel, and care of Penn-Harris-Madison employees. Virginia Mueller, Night School Director, is retiring this June after 22 years of dedicated service, which began as the director of the alternative high school in 1998. Also appearing on the personnel report under certified staff, retirement of assignment, are 12 retirements. All of these certified staff members will retire at the end of the school year. Rhoda Weaver Watson, teacher at Penn High School, retiring after 3 years of service. Tim Gavin, government history teacher at Penn High School, 20 years of service. Bradley Grounds, ACP calculus and pre-calculus teacher at Penn High School, 18 years of service. Rodney Pollock, health and PE teacher at Penn High School, 23 years of service. Deborah DeLaurel, third grade teacher at North Point, 29 years of service. Dominic Ball, ACP U.S. history teacher at Penn High School, 37 years of service. Jennifer Krieger, first grade teacher at Mary Frank Elementary School, 40 years of service. Lisa Wetzel, kindergarten teacher at Mary Frank, 40 years of service. Sally Zebko, Title I reading interventionist at Walt Disney Elementary School, 30 years of service. Vivian Haney, Title I reading interventionist at Walt Disney, 26 years of service. Beth Yoder, resource teacher at Grissom Middle School, 23 years of service. Julie Howard, resource teacher at Walt Disney Elementary School, 20 years of service. And appearing on the personnel report of classified staff, retirement of assignment, are two retirements. Linda Dunlap, educational assistant at Penn High School, retired actually February 22nd this year, following 22 years of dedicated service. Melody Stock, bus operator, will retire on June 2nd this year after 21 years of service to PHM. Just marvelous, marvelous employees. A lot of talent, dedication, expertise. We're going to miss them so much. I'll miss them professionally and so many of them personally, and I wish I'd gotten to know every single one of them better. Just phenomenal people. So on behalf of the board and the administration, we wish all of these dedicated employees the very best in their upcoming retirements.
Board members, any questions regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the March 22nd, 2021 consent agenda as presented by Dr. Thacker?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
I too vote aye. The motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Dr. Thacker, I agree. This is an all-star cast of personnel who appear on the personnel report tonight. Many of these teachers taught our children. Many of them have been with PHM for decades. Some of the employees who have been here in a smaller amount of time have nonetheless made a tremendous impact. We're going to miss all of them. I do want to speak to you, Mr. Lerman, Mike Lerman, because I know wherever you are, you're watching. You have been an extraordinary partner with the board and with the administration, and I want to publicly just thank you for a job extremely well done. You will be very, very, very missed. We wish you the happiest of all retirements and look forward to seeing you again. Move on now to our instruction action item for the evening, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. This action item is for the school year participation, textbook rental, and supplemental fees for next school year, 2021 through 2022, for both elementary and secondary students. So presenting this action item tonight is Dr. Jason Snyder.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. As mentioned, we are here tonight to seek your approval for the participation, textbook rental, and supplemental fees for next school year, 21-22. The proposed fees were reviewed and revised jointly by the Learning Division and the PHM Business Department, Business Office. Just to point out a couple of things, the proposed fees at the elementary level show just slight changes from grade to grade from the current school year to next school year. At the middle school level, overall fees remain fairly consistent. Just noting that grade level amounts charged vary just slightly from school to school, depending on which courses the middle school students are taking. And then at the high school, largely unchanged also. The only recommended noticeable change comes as a result of the newly adopted foreign language curriculum, which the high school foreign language teachers were able to discuss and make a recommendation that was approved by Mr. Gallagher. So, and those high school costs can be seen in the addendum to the program of studies for Penn High School. We are happy to report that our fees are largely unchanged, very consistent with the previous school year, the current school year that we're in. And we believe that'll be appreciated by the PHM parents and community during times like this that we're in now. So at this time, we are seeking your approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Snyder. Board members, any questions or comments for Dr. Snyder?
The strategy on collection of unpaid fees, we have a moratorium on that, if I understand correctly. Is that going to continue?
We're working very gently with our clients, our supporters, our parents, our collaborative partners in that triangle.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the school year participation textbook rental and supplemental fees for the 2021-2022 school year for PHM elementary and secondary students as presented?
I so moved.
A second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Snyder. It's good to see you. Move right along to our instruction discussion item. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. This is the first draft reading of revisions to the parent/student handbooks for the 2021-2022 school year. So Mr. Jeff Johnson, our legal counsel, will lead the discussion for us.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. As Dr. Thacker just introduced, we will be looking tonight and having a first reading for proposed revisions to the 6 handbooks and 2 athletic and activities codes of conduct. Just a little bit about the process that gets us to where we are this evening. It begins with the appropriate representatives of the administration reviewing the handbooks and the athletic codes of conduct and suggesting proposed revisions. They are then sent to me, and we review the handbooks and the codes of conduct to ensure that they are compatible with board policies, paying particular attention to policies which have been enacted or revised since the last revisions to the handbooks and the codes of conduct. In fact, there's something here tonight I can point out to you that the proposed revisions are right from the policy changes. After making additional revisions, we then send the handbooks and the athletic codes of conduct back to the administration, who then package them up electronically and include them with the board packet for your review. Proposed revisions this evening include authorizing properly trained school officials to use handheld or walk-through metal detectors, authorizing students to possess and use appropriate sunscreen products. You recall, we had that policy revision earlier this school year. Also adding advice on cold weather attire for elementary and early learning academy students, and guidance for the use of phones and rules for the use of phones at the middle and the high school levels. This is up for a first reading this evening. I'd be glad to entertain any questions you may have.
Board members, any questions or comments for Mr. Johnson? Okay, well, hearing none, this item was presented for discussion purposes only this evening. Mr. Johnson, as always, thank you very much for your conscientious look at all of the handbooks and our policies. The approval of the parent-student handbooks for the 2021-2022 school year for the elementary school, middle school, Penn High School, athletic and activities code of conduct for students representing Penn High School, athletic and activities code for students representing PHM middle schools, Penway Night School, Penn Pals, the Early Learning Academy Preschool and Kids Club, will be brought back before the board meeting for the approval at the April the 19th, 2021 board meeting. And welcome home.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to our instruction report item for this evening. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. I'm so glad to have the opportunity to introduce this exceptional education report on transition to in-person learning in the young adult program. It's absolutely amazing the great things that we do in the exceptional education department and helping people self-actualize and guiding their development all the way continuously. I'm proud of the accomplishments they make, and you'll be proud to hear this presentation. I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Jenna Todd, our director.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. I'm always happy to have the opportunity to come up and show you some of the fabulous things we've been up to. Just as an introduction, I want to take this opportunity to thank, it takes a village for exceptional education. I know you all know that. And over the last year, I've seen incredible things from so many of our staff members. So we have resource teachers, educational assistants, occupational and physical and speech language therapists and speech language assistants. And all those people are what it takes to put together our department serving kids with disabilities. The least of those are my two ex-ed supervisors, Beth Zachary, who you'll be hearing from shortly, and Rebecca Allen, who supervises the elementary program, and Beth supervises the secondary program. Certainly as a cabinet group, we've had to make 1,000,001 changes, it feels like, and I've appreciated the support of all the cabinet members as we've tried to maneuver through COVID. And of course, you, the board, I know we brought many return to learn plans with tweaks and accommodations and changes, and you've all been incredibly supportive. I hope this is the right button. There we go. So my first slide just talks about what we've been up to during COVID period, the COVID period of time. Obviously, we serve students starting with our Pen Pals programs who are 2.5 to 5 years old, and then every grade from kindergarten to 12th grade, and then our young adult program for our 18 to 22-year-olds. So the very first thing we had to do once COVID hit is reconvene all of the case conferences. We had all of our resource teachers and teams do that and make sure that parents had a good understanding that throughout COVID, there might be times when we're virtual, there might be times when we're here part of the time, there might be times when we're full face-to-face. And I don't know how much you know about case conferences, but that's a very important legal requirement for students that have disabilities. Typically, we hold those conferences once a year at the annual case review, discuss everything that's been accomplished throughout the year and everything we have planned for the next year. In this case, rather than doing it on the anniversary, we just reconvened them all. And rather than continuously having to hold case conferences, we met with families and told them all of the scenarios that could happen, things could change and fluctuate, so that it reduced a lot of anxiety with the parents that I was hearing from about what was going to happen if. So that was our first job, and that certainly took some doing, but we were able to do that. That included figuring out how to provide speech therapies, occupational therapies, physical therapies virtually. That included our psychologists trying to figure out how they were going to evaluate students virtually and keeping the validity and reliability intact, which they were able to do. And so that took tremendous work, and they were all able to do that. Generally speaking, I'd say, and this is actually Dr. Thacker's phrase, people in special ed are kind of differentiation specialists because we are always working with students that have a variety of difficulties. And so we're always modifying and adjusting work. And so even though that comes naturally to us, add COVID to that, and you have an even further challenge. So while it was a stretch, I think we learned a lot. We were able to individualize, and we were able to meet the individual needs of each and every one of our students. Our next step then was to figure out how and when we could bring students back. We knew that was a ways off. So our students that had very significant disabilities that we knew we had to have face-to-face, we brought them back starting in September, 4 days a week. So while some of the schools were empty, we had these students come in so we could do face-to-face instruction. That then required that all those teachers and therapists and psychologists had not only their classroom full of virtual students, but also these students with very significant disabilities face-to-face, much like the challenges that that general ed teachers and others had. So that was also a learning experience for us, but we were able to get them back. Our educational assistants were pushed to not only provide services face-to-face, but also learn how to sit in a classroom virtually and provide the services to the kids virtually. So it's very challenging, but also made us grow tremendously. So that's kind of what we were up to during COVID. Now our focus, of course, is on resolving potential issues. We'll be looking for any gaps for students that we feel like may have missed out. Right now, we're not seeing evidence of that because we're able to bring so many students back. But we're always looking for that. We're always looking to keep parents informed and aware of what we're doing and individualizing every single one of those goals and objectives written in those IEPs. Some of the things we're planning on implementing as we look at where kids are, we can hold small groups. We can either push small group services into the general ed classroom, which is where we provide a lot of our services. If needed, we can push in more of those groups. The great thing about inclusive small groups is that if I have special education staff within the general ed classroom working with the general ed staff, I can also bring general ed students who might be struggling into that small group. If we need specific groups outside of the classroom, we need double doses of things, students with IEPs, we can also take them out of the classroom and do it that way. Our psychologists are deeply involved in looking at students that might be in any kind of social or emotional distress. They're very close, and a big part of the cultures of their buildings that they're assigned to, they each have a couple of buildings where they really become a part of the staff. As trained qualified mental health providers, they stick close to students and staff just to help monitor that and make sure kids are doing okay. We plan to do a live summer school session this week that, as you know from Dr. Short, we're extending from 3 to 4 weeks. We have a great sign-up list for kids with disabilities that'll be there. Lots of teachers interested in doing that, so we'll be intensifying that. That will be for K to 12 and our young adult program that'll also be running for 4 weeks in the summer. And then we always have extended school year options. So in our field, we call this ESY. And this is always for any student that we think is just on the verge of a big breakthrough skill of some kind, or someone that we're worried about regression with. And so we provide them with a longer school year, another full 4 weeks of services so that there's no gap between when school is out in the spring and then back in the fall. So those are some of the things that we have been doing. We've worked hard, we've learned a lot, we've met the needs of our kids. We've really partnered and are appreciative to our partnership with all the general ed teachers and the building administrators. We can't provide inclusive services for kids with disabilities without them. They are key for us, and we appreciate them so much. Everybody in the department has worked very, very hard, and no one's more guilty of that than the next speaker that I'm going to bring up, Beth Zachary, who is supervising the young adult program and secondary grades. She was new to our ex-ed team this year as a district supervisor, and boy, did she hit the ground running. Right in the middle of COVID, and she's been running tonight too on the softball field, but somehow she got changed in here in time. And she's going to talk to you about the young adult program, which she works really closely with. And Beth, I'm going to turn it over to you. And we done our outfits. Aren't we color coordinated?
Thank you, Jenna. Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. I'm so excited to be here tonight. And before I start, I just want to give a huge thank you right back to Jenna and to my supervising partner, Rebecca Allen, for all of their guidance and support. What a year to take on a new position, right? It's been a lot of fun, a lot of challenges, and I'm just really having a great time getting to know the new role. And our teachers and our students just make every day so much fun and so enjoyable. One of the best programs that we have in PHM, I have discovered this year, and that is the Young Adult program. If you want to put a smile on your face and just turn a bad day around, come on over to Young Adult with me. I'll take you over anytime you want to come visit and meet our amazing students and staff who work in the Young Adult program. We serve students who are 18 to 22 years of age. They have graduated from Penn High School with a certificate of completion, and they need a little bit more time and services and support before they're ready to transition to the next chapter of their lives. And that's what we do at Young Adults. We focus on 4 main areas. We focus on independent living skills. We focus on extension of their academic goals that they worked on at Penn High School, particularly money skills, financial management, and of course, reading and writing skills. We practice social skills and various aspects of community living and being successful in the community. And pre-ETS, which is pre-employment skills. That's our major focus, a main area for us. And to help us with that, we are partners with Corvilla Industries. And we have a full-time employment specialist who is with us in the classroom and helping us build relationships with local businesses and job sites so that our students can be out in the community practicing their employment skills. Her name is Rosa Welch, and she is absolutely amazing. Again, she's with us every day, and we've had to be really creative in COVID because we can't be out in the community as much as we normally would be. So we have really taken the opportunity to do some new things. We've built a mock grocery store in our classroom. We have different opportunities for students to work on cooking and daily living skills. We set up offices and lots of role play and different opportunities where we could take that outside world and experiences that our students might do on the job site and bring those into the classroom. And Rosa and our lead teacher, Monica Critch, have been amazing in their creativity and helping our students not miss a beat during this school year. Our partnership with Corvilla also gives us the opportunity to support parents. Through the case conference process, we're able to support parents in applying for waiver services and other different supports that they can get that help support not only them, but their student when they age out of our program and they are on their own, so that they're supported for the long term. As Jenna spoke to, having students in person and in front of us has been a major goal this entire school year. And so, I'm really proud and happy to stand here and say that because we are a standalone program, our young adult students have been in person this entire school year. They have been attending school Monday through Friday. What we did is we split them into AM and PM sessions so that we would have smaller groups of students, but they still were having access to the classroom, to their teachers, and to their different services that they receive from us here in school. So they have been back to school Monday through Friday, all school year, and we're really excited when we come back from spring break that will be Monday through Friday, full days for our students. We're also working towards getting students back out into the community safely and connecting students with various job sites and abilities to go and practice the skills that they've been working on all year in the actual job settings that we have found for them. I also want to note that throughout the school year, due to the diligence of Mrs. Critch, Rosa Welch, our amazing staff, that we've only had 2 positive COVID cases all year, 1 adult, 1 student throughout this entire year. So that's pretty impressive. And we're very proud of that and the efforts of everyone involved. So again, if you want to meet some of the coolest kids in PHM, let me know and I'll take you over to young adult anytime and you can meet them. And again, we are out of Schmucker Middle School is where our program is located. And it's just been really, really fun and exciting to work with all of our students. Do you have any questions about young adult at this time?
How many students do you have in the program?
We have 28 students. We have 23 that are attending in person, and we have 5 students who are virtual, have stayed virtual this year.
Any other questions?
Yeah, how do you qualify to get into the program?
So through the CASE conference committee, we talk about the different various aspects of the program, the different services that we offer, and then parents and students self-select into the program if they have been a member of our life skills classes at Penn High School and think that it is a great fit for them.
So there's really no limit on how many students you can have in the program?
We typically have anywhere from 30 to 35 students is typically what an average class looks like for the young adult program. But no, there's not necessarily a cap.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Zachary.
You're welcome. I have one more thing to share with you guys before I turn it over to the Penn High School crew that's here tonight. And that is a really exciting announcement as we're thinking about students, we're thinking about what they will do post-graduation. We really are trying to build opportunities as early as we can in our programs. And Rebecca Allen and I have really partnered as far as working with Project Success. So Project Success is a resource group that is a partnership with the Indiana Department of Education. And what they do is they provide teachers and schools with strategic professional development and opportunities to collaborate with schools from across the state of Indiana and with our higher ed partners like Indiana University and Purdue University to bring best instructional practices into our classes for teachers of students with disabilities. So last year, Rebecca started a teacher leadership cohort program where we have 4 teachers in our district. One is Mrs. Amy Zimmer, PHM Teacher of the Year last year. So we are really excited that Amy has been a part of that program this year as a member of the teacher leader cohort. We have 1 middle school teacher, Megan Donahue, who is at Schmucker Middle School. And we have 2 elementary teachers, Heather Hurdle and Michelle Treber, who are members of the program as well. And what they are doing as the teacher leader cohort this past year is that they are collaborating and working on their own classrooms, but also taking a look at their schools and targeting areas of growth. Where can we grow? Where can we improve as far as being the most inclusive-minded buildings, programs that we can provide for our students? So with Rebecca starting that last year, we started to look at what else Project Success had to offer. And they offer the opportunity to go through a year-long program where at the end you become endorsed as a fully inclusive Project Success model site. So we decided, hey, why not? Let's go ahead. Let's see how this works. And so Amy Zimmer and I collaborated on putting together an application, taking a look at some various needs that we thought might be great for Penn High School. And we applied for Penn High School to become a model site over this next school year. We just found out last week that we were accepted. Not only were we accepted, we were one of 5 schools accepted into this program next year. We received the highest rankings on the rubric for getting into this program. So we're really excited throughout the course of this next year. We will put together a team of exceptional education teachers, general education teachers, SLP, psychs, just a whole group of people from Penn High School who will work together to work on some targeted goals that we have, and to hopefully this time next year be back here letting you know that we are being endorsed as a model site where we will be a leader in inclusive practices, and we will then be mentoring other schools throughout the state. So we're really excited for this next year. We have 3 areas. I wanted to share with you our 3 areas that we've targeted that we really are going to center our goals around. One is to learn more about co-teaching best practices and improve co-teaching throughout all of our middle schools and at our high school. We want to increase inclusive practices in general education by offering targeted professional development to all staff over the course of the next year. And then last, we want to improve, and obviously this will take our model teacher over here, her leadership, but to improve access to STEM courses and STEM related experiences and opportunities for our students. We have some really cool things going on in that area for our students, and I will turn that over at this time to tell you a little bit more about all of the awesome things happening at Penn High School. I'll turn it over to Academy Leader, Jenny Schaefer. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, members of the board. I'm pleased to share with you some insights on how Penn High School's Exceptional Education Academy is trying to improve inclusive practices at Penn. Tonight, I will highlight some of our inclusive initiatives. We will look at the collaboration with mission to engineer students in the sensory wall. Mrs. Zimmer, 2020 PHM Teacher of the Year, will share information about the Sympathy Club. I will share some more information about project success and co-teaching. So to begin with, okay.
Not listening.
The Sympathy program is part of the NORA project. This is an inclusive program that teaches empathy and sparks friendships between students of all abilities. We are the only school in Indiana a part of this national program. The Sympathy Club is an opportunity for students and staff to work collaboratively on STEM-based projects and create a more inclusive Penn High School community. Activities are co-facilitated with the general ed and exceptional education teachers. Next. This is a picture of a prototype of the sensory wall. If you recall, the mission to engineer students have done some great things for students with disabilities with a prosthetic arm or the costume for the one student in a wheelchair. These students then reached out to Mrs. Zimmer. They want to help more than one student at a time. They want to meet the needs of many students throughout the year, and they came to her and collaboratively came up with the sensory wall. This is a way to engage all students in STEM activities. This has been a collaborative project with many stakeholders in our school and community. Amy's Teacher of the Year grant has underfunded the first phase of the project. And now I have a video of PNN's Julia Klimek interviewing Mrs. Zimmer about sympathy and the sensory wall.
Hi, my name is Julia, and I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Julia Junior at Penn High School, and I'm going to do Miss Summer. Hi, Julia. Can you tell us about the Sympathy program?
I would love to. So the Sympathy program is a program that is an inclusive program that's part of the NORA project. It is a program that helps us spark friendships between students of all abilities and teach empathy at the same time. It's a way to collaboratively work together on STEM-based projects. So the opportunities that we've had this year would be to walk to the nature center and pick up different leaves and then talk about diversity. And then another opportunity that we had was to engineer boats as part of a challenge to work against creating the best model to withstand wind resistance and other factors. And the pandemic slowed us down a little bit this year, but we're
the biology sensory wall.
Well, I am really excited about this biology sensory wall. The biology sensory wall is going to be a one-of-a-kind learning tool for all students. It is going to include the biology standards and the content connectors, so it's a systematic, multi-sensory way to teach science. So all students will be accessible to this project, and there's a whole bunch of teachers working on it. We have teachers that are science teachers or construction teachers, robotics staff, and the robotics team. The kids working on Mission to Engineer are working together to build this learning tool, and we're building it and designing it from the bottom up using the universal design for learning. So all students will have equal access, and it'll be so hands-on and fun. We cannot wait to try it out. And I just want to put a special thanks in there for the administration for their support, and also to the PHM Foundation for giving me a grant that I can use to underwrite the beginning phase of this project. It's going to be awesome. Students from years to years to come are going to enjoy this project.
And I have to agree, it is pretty awesome. Thank you, Julia and Mrs. Zimmer.
Hi, my name is Julia, and
I'm now going to share with you a little bit more about Project Success. It is an initiative through the Indiana Department of Education. It's intended to provide resources to support higher academic achievements with students with more significant disabilities, so Down syndrome or severe autism. Through the Project Success, teachers can become teacher leaders. We did hear about this, where we'll get professional development on lots of topics. One of the topics, as Amy had mentioned, was the universal design for learning. This is a teaching method that removes the barriers of some learning, the barriers that some students have in learning. So in my video, an example would be, I had closed captioning. I don't know if anybody has a hearing loss, but having that already there takes care of that barrier. And that makes it so that all students have an equal opportunity to succeed. So Mrs. Zimmer has been in cohort 1, which is completing this year, and myself and one of our life skills teachers, Erin Hederman, have applied to be next year. We're still waiting to hear back. To piggyback off the teacher leadership application, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the model site. Beth was able to announce that we've been accepted. We will receive monthly collaboration with formative feedback on our inclusive practices. We get assistance implementing our best practices in the classroom, and I'm excited to be able to collaborate with model classrooms and teachers from around the state. One of the requirements for this is to have to be a model site is to have a multidisciplinary team to work on these goals. Here is the list of our team. We will work on the 3 goals that Beth had mentioned: co-teaching best practices, PD for all teachers, gen ed and exceptional ed for working with students with disabilities, and a variety of topics related to students with disabilities, and then improve the access to STEM courses. One of the goals of being a model school is to increase our co-teaching. That's where a general ed teacher and a special ed teacher collaborate and team teach the same class together. Currently, most of our ex-ed staff in the high school are teaching the same content, but in a separate location. As we combine classes with co-teaching, it's a cost-neutral way of improving student experience. Co-teaching has many benefits, such as increasing inclusion, collaboration, and supporting all students, both general ed and special ed students, in having higher achievement. As an exceptional education teacher, I am excited that PHM focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm thrilled that our academy can participate in the hard work to make our school accessible to all. Thank you, and at this time, we will take any of your questions.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Couple quick comments, couple quick questions. First off, thank you. Your enthusiasm is totally contagious. You obviously do exemplary work, tireless. It sounds like you've been this year, creative, flexible in what could have been a year where the bar got lowered, it seems like you guys kept it really high. So you're awesome. Second, from a pedagogical standpoint, your emphasis on ensuring that all teachers learn about inclusive practices. I think every student in a classroom benefits from these practices, so keep it up. That's fantastic and super exciting. 2 questions. One, the extended school year. Yes, why?
Yes.
Is that being extended to English learners as well? I know this is not your umbrella, but maybe you know the answer.
I do not know
No.
the answer. For us, that's in Article 7 in IDEA and is done through the case conference committee as a decision in that case conference. I don't know if, do you know the answer to that,
It would be
Jason?
determined within the ILP meeting.
Okay.
Within the language. If it's part of the language plan, then yes.
So it would go through you guys. It's not anything except special for language learners. Okay.
Right.
Second question is, Ms. Todd, you mentioned using trained psychologists.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel we have enough psychologists to meet the needs of the students we serve in Penn, especially after such a trying year?
Oh dear. Well, we have a fantastic staff of 6 psychologists who have a couple of schools each. And that allows them a couple of days a week, sometimes 2.5 days a week, when we're fully staffed. We have a psych out on maternity leave right now, but and they can get really deeply rooted into the culture and make incredible differences. We, in the future, would love to grow that to larger numbers as we're able to. That, I think you could ask any director that anywhere, and they would say, you know, yeah, we wish we had, you know, tons more psychologists. But I think that our 6 right now are doing a fantastic job and have a very good grasp on the culture and the kids and the teachers of each of their schools, because they're part of it.
So if we have 6, are there certain psychologists spread out among multiple schools? I would guess at the elementary. What is an example of like the most stretched psychologist would serve how many school communities?
Well, with 6, each psychologist can have 2 schools. And so let's say I go to Walt Disney Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I go to Moran Tuesday, Thursday. And they make their own schedules according to that school's needs. They all do the response to intervention teams, the behavior teams, they do behavioral consultation, they do individual and group counseling, and then they're there for any of the emergencies that come up. I know one of my psychs was just called the other day at a school for a student that they had to do the Columbia for and thought maybe there was some suicidal tendencies, and he was able to really share his expertise. That particular student had autism, and work together with the YSB counselor and figure out what the next steps needed to be. So I think there's a lot of teamwork within the school. Not only all our multidisciplinary people that are there, but YSB and Dr. Sears counselors that are in that, they all work together really well.
Do you think the barriers to acquiring more psychologists are staffing related, like they're not enough out there, or funding related?
Well, it's hard to find a good school psychologist. Yeah, it's really hard to find. We've worked through agencies as we plan for the fall to make sure that we have our 6 in place. We sometimes have to do the same thing with speech language pathologists. We have to work through agencies.
My last question related to this. Thank you, I appreciate
We're
your
happy
answers.
to share.
Is our talent acquisition division, do they work just on instructors, or do they work on critical folks like psychologists as well?
It's all the needs, all of the educational needs across the board.
I work very closely with Mike Lorman, and I also work closely with Dr. Schneider. We often recruit together, and we pretty much look out for each other. If they know of a psych or an SLP, or we all tell each other, and we kind of have
Snatch them up?
Yeah, I snatch them
Excellent.
just as quick as I can.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure,
all
thank
of
you.
And all of your colleagues.
Thank you for your question. We appreciate it.
Board
Any other
members, other questions or comments?
Okay, thank you.
Well, congratulations on XL Model Site. What a terrific recognition of everything you're doing. Absolutely love the sympathy program. That is terrific. And that biology sympathy wall, I'd really like to see that. I hope that you'll say hi to Julia for us. She was absolutely remarkable. Jenna Todd, Lisa Zachary, Jenny Schaefer, Amy Zimmer, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. With the challenging year that you've had, you have exceeded all reasonable expectations. Thank you again for being here tonight and for your outstanding presentation. We'll move on, Dr. Thacker, for an update on Return to Learn.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. We're very happy to be able to share tonight an update on our secondary transition, Return to Learn, to a 5-day in-person learning program. As we look at our Return to Learn secondary timeline, actually the timeline, which shows middle and high school, it's really remaining exactly the same right now from March 1st through April 1st. So everything is the same for in-person and virtual. Then as we take spring break and we return from spring break, report back to school, we're going to begin 5 days per week. So as you'll notice at the top, when we talk about the April 12th, the high school, all students grades 9 through 12, Monday through Friday, in person, and has the hours from 8:55 to 3:17. Now these are in person. The students who remain virtual stay in virtual, but their times of the school day will be coordinated with those in person. Now here's the middle school. We have a slight change with this. They're working with students. The students come back 5 days per week. But you'll notice on Mondays, we have a 2-hour delay. Okay, what we found working with the teachers and feedback and with our Teachers Association, we have great teachers across the board. The secondary teachers have been teaching in person and virtual all year. The time constraints are somewhat different for the middle school teachers. The virtual day was very, very beneficial. So what we did was look at what would be beneficial to them so the middle schools are going to observe on Monday only a 2-hour delay for the remainder of the school year. This allows the teacher then to coordinate activities for in-person and virtual students for the entire week. They've convinced us that this is the best thing to make sure they get both of those sets of students off to a great start. So we're proud of the work they're doing. We're glad that we can support them with this. As you look at the bottom where it says 6th grade through 12th grade students who chose virtual, the times for those days, as I said, they were just coordinated with the high school or the middle schools. So the only difference would be on the Monday with that 2-hour delay. Then as we look at the updates from the St. Joseph County Department of Health. So beginning Monday, April 12th, and we do meet with Dr. Fox every single week. That includes administrators and the president of our Teachers Association, Lisa Langfeld. And we talk about the circumstances, the trends, the new rules and guidelines from the CDC, local, state. And so as we are progressing, the secondary building capacity is going to increase to 85%. So we can have 85% of the students in person from grades 6 through 12. Another change will be after spring break, the classroom contact tracing distance will be reduced from 6 feet to 3 feet, which we think will be very, very beneficial. And some examples of exceptions to that would be on the school bus and the cafeterias. Just a couple of examples. Those would remain with the 6 feet, and that's per the Indiana Department of Health and the CDC. Now, we do have some mandatory testing. You know, we have these state mandatory tests every single year, and which mandatory means we have to give them. So, you know, we don't have any choices. So we have to, on Monday, May 3rd and Tuesday, May 4th, all the PHM middle schools are going to have to go to an asynchronous e-learning day, because what we need to do is bring back all of the grades, for grades 3 through 8, virtual students, to participate in the state-required iLearn testing in person. And the best, most effective way we can do that is if we use those middle schools to bring the kids back. So the further details will be provided to all of the parents from the building principal. Now, as we make the transition from virtual learning, we're always working toward a full return to school because we know that's the very best environment for learning for our students. And we have plenty of interest from families who have students in the virtual program, interest in returning them to school in person. So we're going to talk about trying to accommodate that with this transition. I'll ask Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Aaron Linsky, to share that process.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Got good news to share in regards to our wait list. We announced at the last meeting that we would have a wait list for families who are interested in returning their students back to school from virtual. And we're happy to announce that round one, all those families that signed up prior to the 11th of March will be contacted by their principals, and those students will be welcomed back following spring break. We're also happy to announce that round two, which was cut off last week on the 19th, those will also be honored and welcomed back on the 12th. So if a family chose to sign up on that wait list and did so by the end of last week, they will return their students to in-person learning following spring break. A round three window is open as we speak, and so that will remain open for the next month or so, up until the 23rd of April, and then we'll consider them to return in May on the 3rd. We only say consider because, again, it will depend on the current community spread and our guidance from the St. Joseph County Department of Health. Yes, sir.
So in the 3 rounds, Mr. Linsky, have we seen the law of diminishing returns kick in? More people applied for round 1 and then fewer in round 2 and fewer in round 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody who signed up so far has gotten in. So, we have not hit our capacity numbers. In fact, I'm told Penn High School, should everybody return, which we don't, anticipate everybody returning who's chose to, they'll be at 71%. Discovery will be at 75%. Grissom will be at 78%. Schmucker would be at 78%.
But you wouldn't necessarily anticipate round 3 to have a large student population and it's seeking to return at this point in time?
Would not, but we're happy to hopefully allow those families who, so long as the conditions continue to improve, we'd love to welcome back all of our students, as we do believe it's best for them all to return in person for learning. So changes to the learning environment, we've seen this every meeting. We try to make sure that the community understands how we make our decisions. We base it on 4 things: recommendations from both the state and local health departments, the Indiana Back on Track framework, our availability of human resources, and the academic calendar. We believe that those individuals at the health department are best suited and most well-informed to guide us. The Indiana Back on Track framework is released on Wednesday afternoons, right at noon. In fact, they usually upload it a little earlier than that. And availability of human resources just depends on staffing and its level of COVID spread amongst the adults in our corporation. So we monitor that each week. And then academic calendar, when we make changes, we try to align it to natural breaks. And certainly coming back from spring break was one of those breaks. Sorry, technology is not catching up with my fingers. All right, this is the current map for the state of Indiana. You can certainly see we're turning blue, which is a great sign for all of us. Currently in St. Joe County, though, we are still yellow. Dr. Fox has indicated he doesn't believe that we will turn blue, even though it is a possibility based on the size of St. Joe County and the number of tests that we are currently administering each week. Yellow means that we can operate in person. Blue means that we can definitely welcome back more students. So we're looking forward to that day when we do turn blue. Safety protocols, nothing has changed. The one addition to this list is teacher and staff vaccinations, and we're looking forward to next Monday and allowing additional staff to get their second shot. Again, we use the metrics each week. We meet with Dr. Fox. We look at the color coding. We evaluate our internal data. We do have that COVID dashboard, and we're sending home letters to families. I'm sure that some families have gotten plenty of letters and know exactly what we're saying when we send those. And then we're looking at the building capacity as allowed by St. Joe County. Dr. Thacker?
Thank you, Mr. Linsky. You know, as we close this part, safety is our highest priority. And so it's safety for the students, faculty, and staff. And as you heard, we have vaccinations. We have a lot of protocols in place that are just outstanding. And our goal is to return the students to in-person learning as quickly as possible, because that is absolutely the best possible learning environment. And of course, we do that with the guidance that was shared with you. And we appreciate the partnerships that we have with these amazing parents, these great teachers, outstanding students, Indiana Department of Education, Indiana Department of Health, St. Joe County Department of Health, and the St. Joe County Health Systems. So thank you to all of our partners.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Mr. Linsky, board members, any questions or comments?
Just a thank you to those protocols, that long list of protocols. That is not easy to work under all those conditions. And I think our students, and especially our teachers and staff, the fact that our numbers have been so low reflects how vigilant they've been. So it's awesome.
Our staff has done an outstanding job, and it all starts with our teachers.
Excellent. Well, we'll move on to our next item, which is business operational services action item. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley. The administration is pleased to begin our business action items with a joint resolution opposing education savings accounts and voucher expansion. President Riley, would you like to share the details of this resolution?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. The administration is presenting to the board a resolution consisting of 9 paragraphs that speaks out against the voucher expansion. In the interest of summarizing it, I'll read what I perceive to be the most important paragraph of the resolution, which reads, whereas the board believes the public schools provide a strong educational environment for Indiana's children, and education savings accounts, if enacted, and expanded school vouchers would put this environment at risk by directing resources away from those schools to non-public schools and or home schools that are not subject to the same rigorous scrutiny for their use of taxpayer resources. Do I have a motion to approve this joint resolution between the Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation and the Penn-Harris-Madison Teachers Association opposing education savings account and voucher expansion as presented?
I so move.
I second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote? I too vote aye. That motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to our next business action item. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Linsky, is going to share our second business action item this evening, which requests a change order, professional service agreements, and purchases related to the 2020 and 2021 improvement projects. Mr. Linsky?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board. I'm excited to present to you 6 items tonight for your consideration. The first is the administration recommends hiring Schmidt Associates to provide architectural and engineering services related to masonry improvements at both Discovery and Penn High School, which are part of the 2020 and 2021 improvement plans. The work will be scheduled to be completed in the summer of 2021. The estimate for the contract is $20,000 plus up to $2,500 in reimbursable fees. The work will be bid in April, so I'll be bringing that back to you for to be awarded in May. The second, the administration recommends hiring I4Design to provide architectural and design engineering services related to roof improvements at Grissom Middle School and Meadows Edge, and exterior painting at Grissom and Schmucker Middle Schools. The projects are both part of the 2020 and 2021 improvement plans. The work is scheduled to be completed this summer. The contract estimate is an hourly rate of $110 and a not to exceed total cost of $3,000 for the painting and $22,000 for the roof design. The work will be bid in March, and the administration recommends awarding the contract for the work for the roof in April and the painting in May. The third item, the administration recommends approval for equipment order authorization for summer 2021 for our guaranteed energy savings projects at Madison and Moran Elementary Schools. This will be with Performance Services Incorporated. The scope of the work is part of both the 2020 and 2021 improvement plans. The work will be scheduled to be completed this summer. Performance Services is securing the equipment now for a total cost of $68,260, and the labor is currently being quoted and will be presented for your approval in April. Fourth, the administration recommends approval for change order number 3 by Fanning Howie Associates related to the Penn High School Science Classroom and Weight Room Addition to our general contractor Gibson Lewis. The request total, there are 8 adjustments for a total net cost of $7,365. Fifth, the administration recommends approval for classroom furniture at Bittersweet Elementary School utilizing our National Cooperative Purchasing Agreement with both VS America for a total price of $141,544.04. Obviously, it's very important for that 4 cents. And Sharp School Services for $30,199.95. Delivery of the furniture is expected to be in July. Last but not least, finally, we recommend approval for furniture at the Penn High School Science Classroom and Weight Room Addition utilizing a National Cooperative Purchasing Agreement with Lee Company for a total purchase price of $33,673.56. Delivery of the furniture will be in July.
Thank you, Mr. Linsky. Board members, any questions or comments?
Mr. Riley, I would just move that we act on these 6 items collectively, and I make a motion to approve the 6 items as outlined pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth by Mr. Linsky.
Is there a second to the motion to modify the agenda?
I second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote? Aye. Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
The motion to modify the agenda has been approved. Then on the motion itself, to adopt and approve all of these all of these recommendations from the administration. Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote?
Gates. Aye.
How do you vote?
Garrett says aye.
Ms. Roach?
Aye.
Mr. Woods?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries unanimously by a vote of 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Linsky. We'll move on to our next item, which is a second reading and adoption of new or revised board policies, bylaws. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. This evening, we bring the board 4 revised policies to consider for action. These 4 policies were first presented to the board at the February 22nd, 2021 board meeting for discussion and review by board attorney, Mr. Jeff Johnson. Mr. Johnson will present the 4 policies to the board for adoption tonight. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. As Dr. Thacker just indicated, there are proposed revisions to 4 policies scheduled for a second reading and approval this evening. First is policy 2700, annual performance report. The proposed revisions to policy 2700 will allow the school corporation the option to publish a summary of the annual performance report in the local newspaper as opposed to the entire report. The entire annual performance report will still be published on our website. Second is policy 8400, school safety. There are 2 proposed revisions to this existing policy. First, the school corporation would be authorized to apply annually to the Indiana Secured School Fund for matching grant funds for behavioral and mental health services counseling. Second revision would require the school corporation to have a memorandum of understanding with the community health center to provide mental health services to students. Next is policy 8405, environmental health and safety issues, indoor air quality, animals in the classroom, and idling vehicles on school property. The proposed revision to this policy reflect a change in the law which requires PHM to affirm sometime between now and 2023 that we have tested for lead in the drinking water of all schools. And if it should exceed the allowable amount, what the school corporation must do in order to remediate that situation. And lastly is policy 8600, transportation. The proposed revisions to this policy reflect that special purpose buses can be used to transfer students from one school to another school. They may also be used to transport students and their supervisors, including coaches, managers, and sponsors, to athletic and other extracurricular school events, including field trips. If the number of passengers is 14 or less, the driver can be a regular licensed driver. If there are 15 or more passengers, then the driver must be a certified CDL driver. And that concludes the second reading of those 4 policies this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. These policy recommendations have been submitted to the board in the past. Board members, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Johnson?
I have one question. Does anyone know the capacity of these buses he's talking about, those smaller buses?
Mr. Garrett, the smaller buses are 14 passenger. Those have not changed.
All right, so in reality then, unless they go over capacity, we really won't need a regular driver should be able to drive those.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Johnson, policy 8400, school safety, this section about having a memorandum of understanding with make sure I use the correct term here since it's in the policy. A community mental health center established under state law, or a provider certified or licensed by the state to provide mental health or behavioral health services to students. I know we have agreements in place, but do we need to take a look at those agreements to make sure they meet this? Because that's a requirement of getting the matching grant funds.
Yes, and
we'll do that.
Okay, I just want to make sure. They're using certain nomenclature. Let's make sure that we're using right nomenclature.
we do have the agreements in place, but you're right, we should make sure that they require about.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Woods. Any further discussion? Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, I'm not sure we had a motion.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Do I have a motion to adopt the revised policy 2700 annual performance report, revised policy 8400 school safety, revised policy 8405 environmental health and safety issues, and revised policy 8600 transportation?
So moved.
Recognize Mrs. Gates with the motion and Ms. Roach with the second. Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote? Aye. I too vote aye. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Thacker, Mr. Johnson, for your work on this item. We'll move on to the business and operational services hearing. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. We have Mr. Hawkins here with us tonight, our Executive Director of Business Services, and he will highlight our next activity.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. By legal determination, I have to cover a few things here, and then we will have the hearing and hopefully approve the resolutions that you have before you. First thing we need to talk about or mention is the fact that we have legally met the advertising requirements for this. This is the second hearing in this preliminary determination, the second of two, and the first one was 1 month ago today. The resolutions will be presented here shortly, and those four different resolutions are for us to proceed in this process. Briefly, to talk about the minimum or the maximum financial terms, one of the things to note is there is unlikely to be much of any increase in taxes due to taxes, property taxes, debt falling off. Therefore, this debt will likely not increase property taxes for individuals. It does have a maximum in it of just under 18 cents, but based on our estimates, we believe it'll be closer to 2 cents or maybe less. So we do not believe that there's a significant impact on our taxpayers. Another thing to note is that there has been a significant amount of time spent planning these projects. The stakeholders have been involved, the administration has been involved, and then trying to narrow down that scope of work to fit the needs of this project that's before you. The next thing to mention is the fact that we are going to a lease project through a negotiated sale with Stiefel. See, I mentioned the debt. The debt rate is likely to be very minimal. So tonight, we need to have the hearing, and then we will have the 4 resolutions, and the 4 resolutions are basically a project resolution, preliminary determination resolution, and then a need for the projects resolution, and then a reimbursement resolution. Be happy to go over any of those if you want, but this is the same process we've used numerous times in the past. So don't want to waste anybody's time unless you have questions.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Hawkins?
I guess my question is I don't know when quite we're going to sell the bonds, but there is rumors that inflation's going to take off and interest will go up. So are we positioned and watching that very close so we don't get hurt by increase of interest?
As closely as we can. It is difficult to project what it's going to happen when we actually sell the bonds. We have the hoops we have to jump through, and many times when there's only one board meeting a month, it stretches the timeline out. So we will be somewhat at the mercy of the market when it gets to sale. So certainly that's possible, but our projections in the estimated costs and the maximum costs are figuring that in. Our experts are telling us that, it's possible it will go up, but not likely to go up that much, still at very good rates. But, nobody's going to guarantee that.
Nobody knows.
That's right. So we did look at the timeline for the exact reason you're talking about and trying to say, can we condense this timeline down? And basically we were told it would be difficult unless we had extra board meetings in the process. So certainly could look at that if that's the board's wishes, but based on the current schedule that we have of board meetings through July and August, that's pretty much our timeline that we will have to follow.
So we can call special board meetings and we can all meet remotely now, especially to conduct the necessary approvals for a bond issue because rates have gone up. I've seen a refunding that was going to take place that was pretty thin and then rates have crept up and made it probably not feasible. So I think we should have them redo their time frame. It takes 5 minutes to do these public hearings and approvals. And we've obviously talked a lot about the project, so.
Absolutely.
Be happy to do that. I'd love to get the project or the timeline condensed as much as we can. It makes it a little easier for us this summer as well. So I'm sure Mr. Linsky would have no problem with that either. So
have cash in hand earlier, Mr. Linsky.
The 6 things, I'll bring you 12. I'm happy to do it.
So we'll look at that and bring a proposal to you at the next board meeting and see what we can condense in that timeline. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. That sounds like what you're hearing.
Okay, we'll do it.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Hawkins? Well, this final item on the agenda is for the board to hold a preliminary determination hearing on the proposed 2021 building improvement projects. If there's anybody in the audience who's interested in speaking on this particular agenda topic, please take this opportunity now to make sure that you have signed in using the sheet located outside the boardroom on the table outside the meeting room, which should include your name and address. After a presentation by the administration, there will be an opportunity for you to make comments about the construction projects. During that opportunity, we would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that your comments be limited to the proposed projects that are under consideration. The notice of this preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required on February the 11th, 2021 in the South Bend Tribune and the Mishawaka Enterprise. The first preliminary determination hearing was held on February the 22nd, 2021. Dr. Thacker, at this time, I ask that you explain the purpose of the hearing.
Pursuant to Indiana Code 20-26-7-37, before a school corporation may spend more than $1 million to build, repair, or alter a school building that will be financed by a lease or bonds, and must hold a public hearing in which explanations of the potential value of the project, corporation, and community are given. Similarly, pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1- 2020-3.1, a school corporation must hold 2 public hearings and adopt a resolution preliminarily determined to issue bonds or enter a lease for a project that has a total project cost in excess of a non-controlled project. These public hearings and the adoption of resolutions are the very beginning of the legal process. These resolutions establish the maximum financial terms of the proposed project.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. We'll now open the public hearing. Remember, if you'd like to speak, please sign in on the sheet, which is located outside the meeting room. As I mentioned earlier, we ask you to state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed projects and financing. Keep any comments to 3 minutes and avoid being repetitive if at all possible. Is there anybody who would like to address the board? Here, then I will close the preliminary determination hearing on the 2021 lease financing for building improvements. We'll now vote to approve the 4 resolutions, including as part of this process. Do I have a motion to adopt Exhibit A, project resolution as presented?
I so move.
I second.
Mr. Wheeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote? I too vote aye. That motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Second motion, do I have a motion to adopt Exhibit B, the preliminary determination resolution as presented?
So moved.
A second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote? I too vote aye. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Third motion, do I have a motion to adopt Exhibit C, resolution determining the need for projects as presented?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote? I too vote aye. That motion also carries by a vote of 6-0. The fourth and final resolution is the reimbursement resolution relating to the financing of the construction project. The resolution permits the school corporation to reimburse itself from bond proceeds for any cash which it might spend on the project prior to the closing of the bonds. It is required by federal tax law in order to preserve the school corporation's ability to reimburse itself. Do I have a motion to adopt Exhibit D, which is reimbursement resolution as presented?
I so move.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. We'll now move on to our next item, which is board reports and requests. Board members, do you have anything to report or request? Hearing none, then we'll move on to the hearing of visitors. Is there anyone in attendance this evening who would like to address the board? So let me read this first. Anyone wishing to address the board on general topics is invited to do so under this item, the hearing of visitors, without registering. Time limit of 3 minutes shall be enforced for persons wishing to speak during the hearing of visitors. Time will be kept by the board's attorney, Mr. Jeff Johnson, and he will keep you apprised as your time expires. It is requested that names and addresses be stated at the beginning of such comments. Individuals may speak only once during this section of the agenda. Personnel issues are not to be addressed during open sessions of the board. Concerns about individual employees of the district should be brought to the superintendent or his designee, and the board does not respond to questions or comments posed during the hearing of visitors. Come on up.
Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board, my name is Christy Risk. I appreciate you allowing me to speak this evening. I live on Shoreline Drive in Granger and have 2 kids with PHM. I'm here today to talk about the changes in the Return to Learn plan. I was not aware of those changes before I came this evening, so I apologize if I'm not completely prepared for this conversation, one-way conversation. I want to start by saying I am floored. An amazing job by the middle school with COVID protocols. I have got not a single concern. I give them 2 thumbs up. They've done everything. The communication has been outstanding. Everything they said they were going to do, they do. When I call and have questions, they return their phone calls immediately. Not a single concern. I'm overly impressed. Teachers have been outstanding. Administrators have been outstanding. My only concern is learning about, we will now have 2-hour delays on Mondays. And if it was just the 2-hour delay, I would not be concerned. It is also, we delay our school day every single day. So the children actually don't report to school until 9:35. We had that 8:50 to 9:35 like block of time where we had other things that we were doing. Reading, I'm sure administration did other various things during the school day, and now that is completely taken away. And so the kids report to school at 9:35, they get out at 4 o'clock, and now we're not going to go to school on Mondays until 11:35. So my only concern is, when do we return? When do our kids get to start back at a normal school day? When do we catch up what we have lost, the weeks and months of lost education? I know that the teachers are doing their very, very best, and I applaud them. They are doing an outstanding job. The staff will be vaccinated. I believe the children are doing everything they are supposed to be doing. As parents, I believe we're trying our very hardest. When can our kids return to school full time? And when do I have the full confidence they're receiving the education that I know PHM can provide to them? That's all I needed to speak about this evening. Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Riss. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? If not, then we'll move on to announcements. The next regular meeting of the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees will convene on Monday, April the 19th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Educational Services Center. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Rhodes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Meeting is adjourned at 8:36 p.m.